Hello everybody, I'm Patti Patane. Meet the power of intelligent conversation. This is, well, it's about education, but it's also what are you doing with our money, because it's about College of the Desert and their expansions. And my expert on all of this, my guest today, happens to be Fred Jandt, who is a member of the Board of Trustees for College of the Desert, which is now celebrating its
60th year.
60th year. I was a student at College of the Desert for about 6 weeks, I think in the very first year. I was not one of these people that, I was not college bound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing I ended up in the verbal communication and broadcasting. But basically, Fred, you know, you're on a trustee board that controls millions upon millions of tax dollars. Got any background in finance or anything like that that makes you so smart?
Well, prior to the Board of Trustees, I was in California State University, San Bernardino, and was the dean of the Palm Desert campus. So I was financially and administratively in charge of that campus, plus the development for that campus. So two of those buildings
And
have,
I remember when that was starting and going up. That's been what, 20 years?
it's more like 30 years.
Really?
Yes.
Well, let's see. You got College of the Desert and Palm Desert. Then you have a campus in Mecca and a smaller campus. Then you have this brand new temporary facility, which your director of this facility, Scott, has shown us around. But it took you a while. I know you've spent $22 million under a long process to purchase the old Palm Springs Mall at the corner of Farrell and Tuckwitz.
Correct.
Okay. Where'd the $22 million come from?
The College of the Desert has embarked on a real mission of taking our programs to where students are. So yes, we have a program in mechathermal. We also have a big program in Indio. And we also have small programs in some high school locations. We have a small program in Desert Hot Springs. We're looking at another program in Cathedral City. What our intention is to really take the campus out to where students are. So this
Less
is
commute time,
less commute
cost them
time.
less for gas.
Exactly.
I gathered from speaking with a couple of members of your very competent staff here at the West Temporary Campus for College of the Desert that many of your students work full-time and go to school. They also, which no fault of their own, and surely no fault of your system here, but you know, I walk around and I pick up documents and I look at stuff, and what I'm seeing here that you're having to teach when they come into your first year of college, you're having to teach basic education called writing,
yes.
punctuation. Does what you wrote meet the assignment? A picture book of naming words, clinic, pronouns, and nouns. Now, I'm going to be very honest here, Fred. If I was asked what a noun is without the book or a pronoun, I'd be hard-pressed. I have been out of high school now for 50... I graduated in 1962, okay? So it's over 50 years. And I would imagine if you put people like myself at my age now through any kind of your courses here, we'd be struggling with the same, unless you got a really good education, which I had a good education. I learned to read and write, and I hopefully grew up to be a decent and good human being. Product of Palm Springs Unified School District from K through 12. But your college system, let's just deal with yours. I know it's nationwide, I'm not picking on you. But when your students come to you for their first year in college, and they're just out of high school, and you are basically ending up teaching them what they should have learned in high school.
Well, let me show you how bad the situation is. It's broader than what you might think. If we look at basic math and basic English skills that colleges expect students to be able to perform, if we look at University of California, California State University, and the community college system, we're looking at between 70 and 90% of the students don't have the background to perform at college level.
Why are they being allowed to graduate out of the high schools that we pay for a lot of money? Let's just stick with the 4 districts in the Coachella Valley region. Palm Springs Unified, Desert Sands, and Coachella Valley Unified School District. You obviously are a highly educated educator. You know the drill. What is the problem, and why are these students literally being dumped on the college to have to learn what they should have learned in high school, K through 12,
right.
And now you're having to pay money to teach them what they should have learned, so we're buying the same real estate twice.
Correct.
Not that the kids don't deserve it. They deserve everything. We are paying for it. But I think they're getting shortchanged, and I'm going to say what you may not be able to say. Are they just being passed in high school just to get them in and get them out?
To some extent, that is true, but there are some other factors. And for example, let's look at math. Okay, structurally, students in high school can finish their last math class in the 10th grade, sometimes the 11th grade. So there is a delay of a year or more before they take their entry exam in math. And guess what happens in a year?
They forget.
They forget. So some of that material you're looking at is remediation to get students to where they were.
Okay, for those of us out there who have a limited vocabulary, remediation. Definition?
Well, to get students, in the case of math,
Right.
it's to get these students to the level that they were, that they should be. It's not that they can't do it, it's just that they've forgotten it. So
Or were never taught properly to begin with.
it could be both or another reason.
Are the unified school districts, and again, just the Coachella Valley, are they listening to
Oh, yes.
you and
Oh, yes.
saying, look, you're getting kids that are being graduated just for the sake of pushing them through and getting them out.
Yeah.
So now it becomes a college issue. It's not fair to the students, or maybe I'm just don't know what I'm talking about.
No, it's a statewide problem, and let me surprise you, it was worse. It's getting better. So the high schools are working on it and making it better and looking at ways of making that transition more effective, like at the math instruction.
You're always looking for solutions. Are you looking to try and cooperate totally with the local school districts and try and let them know what they're producing,
Oh,
that
sure.
it's not good enough?
Of course, yeah.
And what kind of reaction are you getting?
Oh, complete reaction. I mean, complete
Cooperation?
Yes. This is a statewide problem, and we know we can solve it. We know there are better ways, and people are working together to do it. We're not saying that people couldn't do the math. We're saying that they maybe had that math education at the wrong time, and what we can all do. You would say that's true of yourself.
Sure.
You lost the skills.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So we need to figure out a way to move that education to the right time so people don't lose that skill.
You know, the other half of this program, another half hour I'm doing, I just did with Scott, the
Correct.
administrator of
Yeah,
your new campus. And we just randomly walked in on a
Right.
class, and it happened to be a math class, and they gave me a lesson in math. And we're going to come back and do a
Good.
thorough story on
Good.
that, because I had no idea what they were talking about. I knew 2 + 2, but I didn't know 4. It's a whole new world.
Right.
4 to the power of 5 means 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. So how did you arrive at 1,000 and something?
So there's a lot of ways of doing this problem.
Make it simple.
Sure. So what I did is I started looking at these two 4s. 4 times 4 is 16.
Right?
And this 4 times 4 is also 16.
Correct?
And then I still have this other 4 I haven't used, right?
Right?
So let me just write that one down. So what I did is I split the problem into easier parts. Now I have 16.
Which I
16
understand. 4 times
one.
4 is 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now you have to do 16 times 16. And, normally people do this by doing 16
Yeah.
times 16.
Right. So let me see if I can do
Sure,
this.
go for
Okay.
it.
This could be very embarrassing. Okay. 6 times 6 is 36.
Perfect.
6 times 1 is 6 plus 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Then I drop down over to here. 1 times 6 is 6.
Yes.
256. But so this is just the 16 times the 16.
correct.
Where's the 4?
Well, that's the next part. So now that you've figured out that 16 times 16 is 256, we'll write that right here.
Yeah.
And then we still have to worry about this 4, so let's write it down again. And now you look and you see that the very last thing you have to do is multiply 256
Times 4, which...
So, again, if you don't know off the top of your head,
Well,
you can
you-
always write it down.
Yeah, but you can do it off the top of your head because you're a math instructor.
That's because I have been doing this for a very long time.
You have a doctorate in all this stuff?
A master's degree.
You have a master's degree in mathematics?
I'm still working on the doctorate.
They don't call it arithmetic anymore, do they?
No. I wish they still did.
So I have an enormous amount of respect for what you're faced with here. And so obviously, pardon me, this campus is sorely needed because just within a few months, you have 300 and some odd students here on a regular basis. And that's pretty good. That shows a need.
It was almost overnight enrollment.
Yes.
Because the way that things were developing, we weren't sure exactly if we could do this or when we could do it. We were very pleased to see that people were very responsive, which indicates the need is there.
Well, because I bring historical memory, born and raised in Palm Springs, and I left for 20 years, and I've been back now for the rest of my life. I've noticed that for many years there was a sign out on North Indian Avenue
Yes.
in North Palm Springs. You're going to build a big campus out there right in the wind zone. Well, I just didn't quite understand that, but I never got into it. So that went nowhere.
Correct.
And then years ago, how many years that you started trying to buy this defunct Palm Springs Mall at Tockwitz and Farrell.
Correct.
It's been empty. It's got a school in there now or something. But you know the big stores are gone.
Correct.
It's been an eyesore on the community. It's been non-producing in tax dollars. And you finally figured out you wanted it, and your college trustees, under your direction, bought it. $22 million. Where'd the money come from?
It was a very difficult transaction.
Was it a forced sale? Finally, did you have to do eminent domain with the city?
We did file eminent domain, but that went to the first step in litigation, and that's when we were able to begin to get some serious negotiation.
All right, so you gave the guy $22 million for his defunct piece
It's
of
actually
property.
a bit more than that.
More than
no,
twen-
no, no, more property. We also took the Jack in the Box
Corner.
which was not included in the eminent domain.
Okay, so you bought that.
Right.
Are you getting income off that?
Yes.
Oh, good. So you're in the business of making money finally.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And the actual corner, the other corner on Farrell, closest to Palm Springs High School,
Right.
was actually not owned by that owner. It was owned by another party.
So it had been divided up, sort of.
Yes.
Okay,
mhm.
so you paid even more.
So we had to
Okay.
make an arrangement, and then we finally had to get agreement on the CC&Rs. So it
Yeah,
wasn't
those are rules and regulations, folks, that for the most
Yes.
part waste a lot of our money.
exactly.
And waste a lot of time. In the meantime, kids aren't getting the education they need because the CC&R's rules and regulations, and nobody's willing to step over the rules and regulations and make this process a little bit simpler and a little bit less expensive for us who are paying the bills.
Correctly.
Our tax
correct.
dollars.
So we had the mall property, the Jack in the Box, the corner on Farrell next to the high school, plus the elimination
So
of
how
all
much
the
is the total, Fred?
regulations.
What's the total
About
here?
20 million.
20 million.
Plus another factor is had we
Was
not
that 20 times 22?
no 22.
Total altogether.
Total altogether.
Only 20 million. Oh, great. Where'd the
Yep.
money come from?
Part of it is redevelopment funds, and part of it is Measure B.
So tax dollars.
Tax dollars, yeah.
Okay, so we're paying for it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that one other thing that we got out of this was, had we gone through eminent domain, we have every reason to believe that we would have gone into a lengthy appeal
Yeah.
process.
It's gotten even more expensive.
Wouldn't have gotten even more expensive.
Well, obviously there was a cooperation. The city wanted it. The
Yes.
city wanted the eyesore
Right.
done. The gentleman from China who owned it, okay, he walked with 20 million of our tax dollars. Great. Now, what are you going to do over there? It's a big, empty
Right.
building.
Right.
What are your estimated refurbishing, redesign costs
Right,
on that
right.
one. How much money do you think you're going to have to spend?
Our first step is to get the state architects to review the structural integrity of that building.
Yeah, I'm familiar with all that stuff that cost us more money than it should, because the more the architects can spend designing and creating your building, the more money the architect makes.
Well, this is not designing yet.
Yeah,
This
but
is just
still,
to
when it
see-
comes down to that.
Right, right.
So
But
it,
first stage is to see, is that building safe?
Regardless, you bought it.
Right,
You
correct.
got it. Either you're going to have to make it safe, tear it down, build it up again,
Right.
do whatever you have to do.
Right.
So you guys have quite a job ahead of you.
Right, right.
Now, this is going to require an enormous amount of skilled labor.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you and I are familiar with the building trades unions, which I have made no secret that I am very much in favor of these days, because they have something called apprenticeship programs.
Right, right.
And they have something called
Right.
pre-apprenticeship programs.
Correct.
I will be doing more and more programs on pre-apprentice, because I am a huge, huge fan of these things. Now, it comes down to a couple of things. And again, I'm not meaning to put you on the spot, Fred, but I'm going to. When I do know that when you installed these temporary buildings here, you had to have electricity brought in and everything else. And I do know that you used a union electrical contractor that hired union labor, because it's prevailing wage, it has all the benefits. And as you know, and I've made no secret of it, that for students coming out of school today who do not need or require a college education to have a good and honorable life and a good living and take care of their families,
Correct.
American labor unions need to get back to doing what they do best, which is apprenticeship training, journeyman,
Correct.
and a solid, good life for their members.
Correct.
How do you feel, and how do you think your board members feel about something called a project labor agreement? Now, I didn't know what one was a few years ago. I hadn't a clue. I've tried to do my homework. I know you're familiar with it.
Yes.
Is the Board of Trustees going to sign a project labor agreement, which in essence says to the community, we are only going to use pre-apprentice and apprenticeship labor that is trained and certified by the state of California under the AFL-CIO union building trades for Riverside County? Are you going to insist upon a project labor agreement that guarantees the several $100 million you're going to have to put into
Right.
that building over there, that the money stays here? It stays here under a project labor agreement. The kids coming out of the high schools today would become apprentices paid on the job from day one. Where do you and your fellow trustees stay with that project, an agreement to keep? I call it an agreement to keep the money here.
Right, right. I can say this, that to the extent that I'm aware of what's happening, there have been several years of history where the district has made very affirmative steps to ensure that what we spend is spent locally. So we've got a history of doing that. We have even reached out to local businesses about other ways to help them prepare to bid for projects.
Well, it's called pre-apprentice. I mean,
Right.
if the skilled labor is there, which I know we're going to be doing down here more than just the International Brotherhood of Electrical.
Right.
The electrical union has a campus in Coachella.
Right.
It's a small one. It's the beginning. They've outgrown it now, and we're working to get them a bigger campus. That has proved to be phenomenal for a handful of the students coming out of the Coachella Valley Unified School District, which is all Title I, which means it all qualifies as poverty. So how do you think there's going to be any kind of a misunderstanding of the need for a PLA? Is there going to be any kind of a misunderstanding on the member of your board members to see if we can't get that signed and guarantee that the money and the education stays here?
Right. Well, to go back, we have had our clear policy of getting local workers. We've done that. In terms of exactly what would be in that agreement, we have not addressed that agreement or looked at what that might be.
Is it time to start?
Probably, but,
Okay.
but it's time to look at that.
Right.
But I would say look at what we've done so far.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. I really do. I know you have.
Yeah.
And as a result, you had a union contractor and union labor right here.
Right.
The problem is we don't have enough pre-apprenticeship programs in the schools, if any.
Right.
Vocational education went out the air 50 years ago, but it's coming back. When I came in here, I had the opportunity to talk to a lady here that happens to be, this is a resource. This is your beautiful resource center right now, and I put you right in front of the books because I'm a huge library fan. You really are doing a phenomenal job with what you have to work with, and considering you basically have to educate these kids education-wise what they should have gotten in high school. It's a big drain, and hopefully you're working towards fixing that. I hope that the pre-apprenticeship programs of the labor unions, including the nurses, the hospitality, I mean, it's not just construction, it's everything. I mean, we're going to have some in the East Valley that are aquaponic and hydroponic farms. We're going to have introduction to health and everything. So it's early start. I believe in early start.
Well, you know, the programs that we're going to have at the Palm Desert campus fit that quite well. So we're looking at hospitality and culinary.
Well, I do know that I talked to Supervisor Manny Perez the other day, and he said that they managed to get $3 million for the San Bernardino San Bernardino, you were there. Come
Yes,
on, you were
Palm
the dean.
Desert campus, right.
Palm Desert campus
Right.
of the University. Cal State San Bernardino. Got $3 million for culinary and hospitality.
Right.
We will pre-apprentice that. I mean, what I'm doing with the unions, we're going to pre-apprentice with the hospitality union and see to it that these kids who want, we need service.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we need people to service in restaurants. They should be paid a good living wage.
It seems ironic that has not been addressed in the Coachella
Oh, it's
Valley.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's taken
yeah.
too long.
So
But
that's one area.
it's being done at the San Bernardino College,
Correct.
which is a state college,
Correct.
whereas College of the Desert is a community college.
Correct.
What's the difference?
Well, California has 3 tiers from the original master plan for higher education several years ago. It's the UC system, which as freshmen admits students who are in the top 13% of graduating seniors.
Is that like UCLA,
Yes, correct. UCLA.
USC is private, isn't it? It's not part of it, is it?
Well, there is the University of San Diego.
Oh, right.
Okay,
You're right, of course.
Okay. And then there's California State University, which admits the top 1/3 of high school graduating.
So you got to have a pretty good thing to get into the university level. Then you have to have a pretty
Right.
good test score to get into the next level, which was
Right.
like the college campus,
Right.
San Bernardino. And then the next score. Do you have any kind of a score you have to get into a community college like this?
Technically not,
Oh,
but as
good.
long as you meet the other entry requirements. But the important thing is that in that master plan, it was envisioned that the community colleges would be the major feeder by transfer students. So even though you might say, well, the top 13% go to the UCs, it's not necessarily true. Many of them go to the community colleges because it's more affordable and it's local.
It's a good start.
And it's local.
How many students do you have on the campus in the main campus in Coachella, in Palm Desert?
The total of all the campuses, 15,000.
15,000. So that includes Mecca. Now the Indio, the new building. I was there the other day. It's very nice. Which is kind of like this, is it not? It's kind of like a starter.
Oh no, that's a full building, and
Oh, it is?
We'll be doing a second building there just in a couple of years.
Okay.
Desert Hot Springs, and then probably a future program in Cathedral City, Palm Springs, and some other local high schools.
Now, does it cost us more in tax dollars to have multiple community college campuses
No.
in different locations than it does to have them all in one place?
No.
So there's no financial advantage to put 10,000 students together as opposed to putting a few thousand here and a few thousand there.
No, there's no real difference.
Really, and you find it a better education that way.
Yes. And by the way, I want to make it clear the community colleges have 2 purposes, not only the transfer population, but the students that you have a real affinity for, and that's the students going into career and technical.
Yes. Yes.
So the community colleges have a dual purpose.
If you had a magic wand, okay, here's my glass. Here's your magic wand,
All
Fred.
right.
Okay, there's your magic wand. What would you do?
Well, in 5 years we will have, however the Palm Springs campus is developed, in 5 years it will be developed. So we'll have the culinary, the hospitality, we'll have film, digital media, radio, television. Okay.
Right up my alley.
Yeah, we'll have that there. Let's see. We'll also have healthcare, nursing. So
really, you're separating your campuses by specialty
Yes,
almost.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also in Palm Springs, we will have the sustainable energy programs.
Okay.
So these are all career and technical programs in addition to people that will be wanting to transfer.
Right. I do know the the Riverside Building Trades Union are going to be overseeing a specialty academy that we're doing, that I'm part of. And the key there is that we will be training those students starting in the high school, so they can be the pre-apprentice and introduce them to things like they do in Europe. You know, get them introduced.
Right.
Not every kid was meant to go to college.
Right,
I
like
mean,
the German system.
I didn't do well. The Sherman? What's
The
that?
German system.
The German, I'm sorry, yes, of course. They start educating them almost in the first grade to some kind of a career path. And when they get to, like, I guess, say maybe the 10th grade or something, they take a test, or they ask them, what do you want to do with your life? And if the kid's been playing with little electrical toys with little solar things on them since the first grade, they may want to be an electrician, which, by the way, pays exceedingly well here in Southern California, thanks to the unions.
Right. Because some people in the United States, when they hear about the German system, react negatively to it, because they say, my goodness, people are programmed into being a certain career. And ironically,
Just the opposite,
it's
isn't it?
just the opposite. And if you think of what we do here, we actually almost program all people into saying, if you don't go into a baccalaureate program,
You got a problem.
You have a problem.
Yeah.
So there's a real irony in our comparison to what we can do and what we should be doing.
You know, I'd like to be able to probably at another date, when you have time, and maybe bring a professor with you or something along those lines, discuss the success of the German, I called it a European method,
European method, yes.
of deciding along about the 10th or 12th grade or whatever, that, you know, maybe I'd really like to be a plumber. You know what? I don't need 4 years of college. Right out of high school, I get paid on the job training. I graduate into a full plumber journeyman with no debt. I've been paid from day one. I've got health care from day one for my family at 18 years old. I got a great retirement looking at me. So I'd love to explore, you mentioned the Germany model. Maybe we can educate people as to, look, this works. Right. And if we can do it here, and if this is one of your magic wand passions,
Yes.
I'd love to explore it
Yes.
with you, because I would read up on it and learn maybe a little bit
Yes.
more about the German.
One of our hidden problems in this country is the amount of student debt that
no,
exists.
it's horrible. But see, with the vocational job through unions, you have zero.
Correct. And that is one way of addressing the debt. Is unbelievable.
Yes, it's out of
And
hand.
It's completely out of hand, and it may be such a burden on individual people, and it's going to be a burden on the country as well.
40% of all students, if I'm not wrong, I could be wrong here, 40% of all students who enter college drop out, and they drop out with debt.
And that debt is not forgivable.
No.
And in some privates, I remember speaking at Loma Linda with a group of students who were leaving the university with almost $100,000 in debt.
Oh, that's minor. That's small. Unless you go for a doctorate, it's over $1 million. You want to be a doctor or something?
I don't know about that $1 million, but I do know 100,000.
Well, a specialty. You know, if you're a specialty,
That's incredible.
$600,000, $700,000 for a surgeon, a neurosurgeon, things like that, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing here, and I want to be a chance to mention this, at College of the Desert, we are tuition free right now. There's no cost to attending College of the Desert.
Here? You can come here and not pay a penny?
Well, if you are a high school graduate from one of our service high schools, and of this year and last year, so the last 2 years, anyone who graduated from our 3 school districts can come to College of the Desert for free. We are committed to doing that, and we are committed to trying to do that on into the future. So we are tuition free.
That's the end of the program. I did not know
Yes,
that.
yeah.
We'll talk again about that.
Yeah, it's a major commitment we've made to the Valley, and
I don't think people know that.
it's where
Well,
probably not.
Now you got an audience.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
We'll air this for quite a bit.
Yeah,
Fred,
so
and,
students can go to, students that want to transfer can go to College of the Desert for the first 2 years. All they have is their living and
books,
food and books,
Yeah.
and we cover tuition costs for 2 years. Now that's a bargain.
tax dollars well put.
Yeah.
Any questions? Call me or send me an email.